Feeling so stuck in my head that I forget just about everything my therapist said. Maybe I'm self-helpless.
Hey everyone, welcome to Self-Helpless, where science, spirituality, and sustainability are brunch buddies. I'm Delaney Fisher, and details about today's topic can be found in the episode description. Returning listeners, if an episode of Self-Helpless has supported you in some way, a quick 5-star rating or review, if you haven't left one already, honestly keeps this indie podcast alive amidst the big old budget behemoths out there. So thank you for feeding the algorithm a little treat for me. Ad-free episodes are now on Patreon at patreon.com/selfhelpless, and info about some free goodies will be shared in the outro. Okay, it's podcast time. What is happening, everyone? It's Delaney. Today's episode is going to be a little bit different. I just want to share some updates and announcements about Self-Helpless. But before we get into that, I first want to welcome all the new people coming into the Self-Helpless atmosphere at this time. So, hi, welcome. Glad you're here. Self-Helpless has been around for a long time, many years, been around the block. There's 500 episodes of the podcast at least. So, I want to make you aware of a search engine that we have on the Self-Helpless website. If you go to selfhelplesspodcast.com, you can type in any topic you might want to learn about. Chances are we have covered that topic in some respect. And then when every new episode comes out, I always list a handful of related topics in the episode description. So that is another way that you can, do more of a deep dive on a certain concept that you want to learn more about at this time. I also have ad-free episodes available on Patreon. If you prefer the ad-free version of every episode, you can check that out at patreon.com/selfhelpless. Both video and audio is available ad-free on Patreon. There's also some free goodies on our website. Again, selfhelplesspodcast.com. There is a watch and read list there, which is a list of the podcast's most mentioned books and documentaries, things that have been mentioned by guests and subscribers and all that good stuff. I try to update that about once a year or so. And then there are some free goodies on the email list as well, which is called the Self-Help List. That's available to join on the website. You get the quote buffet, which is a bunch of quotes that have been mentioned on the podcast in the past, and several that haven't been mentioned that are just ones I really like and want to share with you. So you'll get that. And then I send a weekly-ish email with the latest episodes. If you prefer seeing all the new stuff, in one email delivered straight to your inbox, you get that kind of weekly episode roundup. And then every month or so, I share an opportunity with the email list around a certain guest I might be looking for. It might be a specialist that I want to have on the podcast to educate us about a certain topic, or someone with a specific story to share. So feel free to join that if you might be interested. I know also, publicists, I know that you like adding yourself to those lists so you can share opportunities with clients. So yeah, feel free to join for that reason as well. And anyone can share those opportunities wherever you would like. If you want to share it with your own email list or on your Facebook group or online community or with your friends, it's very helpful for me because we get over 100 submissions for guests every single week. So there's a lot of topics people want to come on the show to discuss that, pop up in my inbox. But there's a lot of topics that don't just pop in my inbox that I like to seek out, do some research about, and find people to speak to those. And of course, it's easy for me to just send an email to my list to see if anybody, fits that description before I go and, spend time researching and all that good stuff. It's a win-win, easy for me and an opportunity for somebody out there who might want to be on the podcast. I also list our current sponsors on the website. So if you are curious about what kind of discount code is available right now, that's all available at selfhelplesspodcast.com. And those are all limited time offers that gets updated pretty frequently. So if you see something that you like, I would recommend jumping on it if you can. I'm very mindful about the kind of sponsors I collaborate with. I partner with brands who are transparent with their consumers. They prioritize ethical sourcing. They have a product or service that is helpful in some way, either for human health or, their process is compassionate towards animals and the environment. So I say no to sponsors just as much as I say yes, because I do not take anyone and everyone. I collaborate with brands who have products I either have or want in my home or life or could use, or same thing amongst my family and friends' homes or lives as well. If it's something that a friend of mine is very passionate about, or something that my husband loves. So if you want to know more about the lens that I accept sponsors through, you can find out a little more about myself on the website. I know it's important to new listeners, especially, to know what kind of values their host has. So that is there for you as well. And if you are interested in sponsoring Self-Helpless, you can contact us through the website and you'll be put in touch with the sales team and all that good stuff. And then, there's lots of ways to support the podcast. If you end up enjoying your time here, you can support the show by supporting our sponsors. If you like to do a little shopping, you can join the Patreon for ad-free episodes. Those are a couple paid ways to support the show. Free ways to support the podcast: you can leave a 5-star rating and review, share Self-Helpless with a friend or with your community in some way. All of it is very much appreciated. Again, welcome new people, and a lot of those updates are new for everybody just because I've done some refreshing of the space recently. Okay, moving on. So you may have noticed some updates or changes to Self-Helpless recently. So I just wanted to share what's going on and what to expect going forward. So going back a little bit, for those of you who've been tuning in for a long time, you may know that I've been hosting the podcast solo for a couple years now. And a little while back, I realized that I had recorded almost a year's worth of episodes. Like, I had the episodes in the bank, not necessarily edited and ready to be released. I realized I had so many episodes because there are so many people I want to say yes to. Only releasing one episode a week for the most part, since Self-Helpless has started. There's been phases where we've released more than one episode, but for the most part, we've released one weekly episode. And I just realized that in order for me to continue saying yes to as many people as I personally want to say yes to, I was going to have to figure out how to be able to release multiple episodes a week. And in order to do that, I have had to simplify a lot of things and remove a lot of things from the operations of the podcast so we can make that happen. Because one, was just not enough. Like, to think that I'm only going to be able to release 52 episodes a year just makes me very sad, because 400 submissions minimum a month, and so many of those I would like to say yes to. So if you have seen a video of the podcast recently, you may have noticed that in some videos I have short hair, some I have long hair. Sometimes I'm saying I'm 34, sometimes I'm saying I'm 35. It's because I have literally a year's worth of episodes, and I have been releasing old ones and new ones kind of staggered. So apologies for the whiplash and confusion. You are very sane. It is not you. That's what's been going on. And yeah, the very short hair happened because I accidentally gave myself a mullet in a DIY gone wrong, but we'll save that for another time. So for the past few weeks, I've been releasing a few episodes a week, and it'll be like that for a little while, and then it will be 2 episodes per week consistently. The new schedule will most likely be every Tuesday and Thursday going forward, once I release a lot of the banked episodes for you. I know a lot of you count on Self-Helpless for your morning commutes, chores, bath time, as your walking buddy. So I recommend just subscribing to the podcast on whatever podcast app or platform you are tuning into this episode right now, because the schedule will be fluctuating for a bit. So if you are anything like me, where I may listen to a podcast for months at a time before I remember to subscribe, I just kind of go back periodically and check on new episodes. I'm just letting you know, you will end up missing a lot of them. They are going to pile up. So the good news is Self-Helpless will be more frequent for your daily routines and things like that. So in order to increase the volume of episodes, here's what I have simplified or removed completely which some of you have already noticed. So I'm no longer doing like intros and outros for every episode anymore. So I'm not summarizing or recapping anything or giving you kind of a sneak peek before or after the episode. We are just getting right into the conversation, and you'll find there's a short pre-recorded intro and outro on every episode. The episodes going forward are also going to be a bit shorter. Episodes have been closer to an hour, give or take, and now they're going to be closer to 40 minutes, give or take. But again, you will still see episodes that I recorded, 6 months ago coming out. And so you might not see that transition consistently for a little while longer. I also deactivated all of the Self-Helpless social media. For those of you who know me, know that a few years back, I permanently deleted all of my personal social media accounts. I'm just not a social media person. It's just not for me. I enjoy podcasting, and I would really like to devote my energy to that. And for my personal goals and my professional goals, with the podcast, social media is more of an energy drain and a time suck, and is more counterproductive than it is helpful for the podcast. And so I have been wanting to deactivate those for quite some time. Pretty much as soon as I knew I was going to be hosting the podcast solo, my first question was basically, how long until I can delete all the social media? Anyway, it's been a process that I have had to discuss, with my lit agent and the podcast network and all that kind of stuff. And I want to be very clear. It's not because I don't love connecting with you, or, I don't love the podcast. The reason I wanted to take social media out of the equation completely is because I do love connecting with you and love the podcast so much. And this will enable me to do more of it by producing more episodes, having you on the show more often, so we can really connect. So if you ever see me out and about in the world, feel free to come say hi, because I am not antisocial just because I'm not a fan of being on social media. So if you've been trying to find us on there and you haven't been able to, that's what's going on. The best way to stay up to date about new episodes is to subscribe to Self-Helpless on your preferred podcast platform, so it pops right up in your feed. Or again, you can join the email list, which is totally free at selfhelplesspodcast.com, where you'll get notified once a week or so of, the episode lineup. I also sprung a change in cover art. I joined a new podcast network recently, so that was part of the onboarding for them and that transition process. And for those of you who've been around a while, Self-Helpless has had many lives. And so there's going to be a little bit of a shift in the content. You may or may not have already noticed, because I have been releasing newer episodes amongst the ones that I've recorded 3 to 6 months ago. For many years, Self-Helpless was focused on mental health, relationships. We've had a lot of great therapists on the podcast. It's been very therapeutic based, I would say, productivity based, which has been very, very helpful. And there is a ton of support for you. If you are trying to figure out, why you are the way you are, and processing that, and leveraging it for your well-being and your goals. And although there will still be some of that here and there, it's just not going to be the main thing. Going forward, I'm really honing in on three main themes for the podcast, which is science, spirituality, and sustainability. So you are going to be hearing from a variety of scientists and doctors discussing things like AI and consciousness and the latest discoveries around human health and potential. I'm chatting with religious studies scholars and historians and, different spiritual teachers about the different beliefs everyone holds and where they come from, the roots and the origins of them, and the impact they have on all of us individually and collectively. You'll see innovators on the podcast who are solving major issues around environmental concerns and animal welfare, disease prevention, as well as people who are really locked in on their local community and making impact with a small business or a campaign, things like that. And even though I'm switching things up a little bit, the energy will be the same. It'll still be approachable. Things will still be relevant. We'll be sharing things that you can apply to your own life if they feel like a fit to you. I'm having a lot of people on who are doing very creative things. They have creative solutions for things, that will definitely give you a lot of ideas for your life and your work. And of course, there will still be some weird or random episodes along the way that don't necessarily fit these new categories. So it's more of a subtle shift, really. Moving on to some opportunities to be a guest on Self-Helpless. I do a series called Subscriber Stories. The past couple years, that has been a seasonal thing where I will announce that in the spring or summer that we're open for submissions, and that there's a deadline and all that. I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm basically just letting you know this is open all year round because we get so many weekly submissions. That was just kind of creating even more overwhelm in the inbox. So, yes, it's open all year round. And if you're considering applying for a subscriber stories episode, the easiest way to think about it is this is somebody who wants to come on the podcast to share a personal experience of theirs. It might be a resource or system that's really helped them through something. We've had people come on and talk about a variety of things, whether it was living in an RV and hot tips for that kind of transition. Somebody who lost multiple family members very close together, and we talked about compounded grief. It can be about things you learned from Self-Helpless that you have implemented in some way, and you'd like to share how that has impacted you, or some kind of weird, intuitive hit or synchronicity. You guys seem to really like that stuff, which is awesome because I do too. But if you have something like that, I've had people write in saying that they felt weird all day. And then when the phone rang, they just knew it was going to be news about, a family member who had passed away or something, right? So anything like that is a fit for this as well. And just to be clear, you don't need a social media following. You don't need to have written a book. You're not promoting anything. These are usually people who have never really guested on a podcast before. So I always feel very honored when somebody wants to do that on the podcast. It truly is an exclusive episode because this is likely the one and only time they are sharing this information publicly. Another way to be featured, some of the feedback I've received since doing the pod solo is that you miss the friend co-host experience every once in a while. And I completely understand and I agree with that. And part of what you would like to see from me going forward is me sharing more about what's going on in my life, whether it's stuff that I'm going through or, hot tips or things I'm trying, all that, which very sweet of you that you want to hear more about that. But yeah, you're right. Like when I have somebody who I'm interviewing on the podcast, I don't share a whole lot about myself because my goal is to get as much information from them as possible to share with all of you about their areas of expertise. And so I just ask a ton of questions usually, and I might bring something personal up if it feels relevant, but I really don't force a lot of personal information about myself into those interview episodes. But I agree, I do miss having a friend on the other end to share things with and to have conversations in that way. And that's how I also prefer sharing about myself or, different things that I might be trying that could be helpful to you. I don't really like doing this kind of a format. I'm not a big solo episode person. I don't like when it feels like I'm giving a TED talk or, a PowerPoint presentation into the ether. I do like having a conversation with somebody where there is a human person on the other end, reciprocity. So that is how I plan to share about myself in that way, which leads me into the fact that I will be having more guest co-hosts on this season. A lot of you have liked the episodes with M. Schultz, who is one of my best friends, and more things like that will be happening with a variety of people. So if you would like to apply to be a guest co-host for an episode, I would love to hear from you. Those episodes differ from the interview episodes. Basically, we would both bring questions for each other to the table around a specific topic, unlike the interview format where I ask the guest a million questions about themselves or their expertise. So I would love to hear from you. You can apply to be a guest co host. You can apply for the subscriber stories series by contacting selfhelplesspodcast@gmail.com. And then again, the third way to get featured on the podcast is by joining the email list at selfhelplesspodcast.com, where I will be sending a monthly-ish email out for, a specific guest I might be looking for. And that might be a fit for subscriber stories or just, a regular interview episode or even a guest co-host format. So if you or someone wants to be on the podcast and you're unsure which kind of category best fits you, I would say, the interview episode, if you want to apply for that, that's really if you have a specialty in some area, along the lines of, like I said, the three main categories of science, sustainability, spirituality. For the subscriber story series, there's a personal experience you'd like to share, and I will kind of be the guide helping everybody walk through each step of your story, in that way. And for the guest co-host episode, that's basically, if you want to hang out with me and we will have a chat, maybe there's some questions that you might want to ask me about based on past episodes or experiences that I've shared that, nobody has asked me on the podcast before, and you would like to be the one to do that. There's a specific topic that you would like to bring to the podcast, and we each share our perspectives and experiences based on it. So hopefully that helps you kind of put yourself in the right category, if you will, if you're a bit confused about which one you want to do. You can also pitch yourself for more than one. And the search engine, again, can be helpful for all of that as well. If you want to see topics we've already covered, if you want to bring a new angle to a topic we've already covered, or see what we haven't covered so you can help me fill some of those gaps, that would be lovely. All right, I think I covered everything. Basically, subscribe to Self-Helpless wherever you prefer to get your podcasts, because Self-Helpless is no longer on social media. You can join the email list for some free goodies. Like I mentioned, selfhelplesspodcast.com. There's stuff on the website, stuff on the email list. And you can apply to be on the podcast in any of the ways I've mentioned at selfhelplesspodcast@gmail.com. Yeah, and feel free to share Self-Helpless with anyone in your life who may be interested in, our back catalog, basically all the episodes that we have that are very therapeutic and productivity based and all that good stuff. And also for people who are interested in where the podcast is heading as well. I know I directed you to several different spots in this episode, but everything can be found in one place, always, at selfhelplesspodcast.com. You can also click the link in the episode description and it'll take you right there as well. So to the new listeners and the ones who have been here a long time, thank you. I'm really excited for this next iteration of the podcast. And I will talk to you very soon, even sooner than usual, because, there's going to be more episodes every week. Thanks for hanging out with Self-Helpless. Feel free to share this with someone who could use it, and you can binge related conversations linked in the show notes. Ad-free episodes are now available on Patreon, and because I'm practically allergic to social media, the best way to get notified about new episodes is to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, or join the email list at selfhelplesspodcast.com, where you will also find some free goodies like a watch and read list and the quote buffet. All right. Love you big time, and thank you so much.